Netflix One Piece has broke the curse. It's that a season 2 has been confirmed, and season 1 was really received so well. I'd love to go and hear what your thoughts are after seeing One Piece season 1, and then what your emotions are now that the announcement has been made for season 2, and what your expectations that you would like to see going into that.
You know, maybe I'm a pessimist by nature, but when this was first announced, and I made videos about this just the same as everybody else, I told people just give it a shot, right? But at the same time, I thought that there were certain things that had to happen for this to work, and I laid those out. You know, they need money. Period. You have to have a big budget for something doing One Piece. Whoever they cast has to nail these characters. The person writing it. You're being compared to Oda, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to rewrite it in a new medium. You have to rewrite it, but you're going up against, in my opinion, one of the greatest stories of our generation. Certainly a masterpiece within its own sphere, and you have to match that. That is, I didn't think it was possible, basically, you know, and so I was going into it, and I was going to try to be fair, and I wanted everybody to give it a shot, but at no point did I ever believe. That's just the truth. And um, when the first, I got all sorts of teasers from Artur. There's a large group
Mm-hmm.
of One Piece creators up in New York for an event that hung out and talked to the showrunners and the actors, and they saw clips of it, and they were hyped about it. But Artur, Library of
Mm-hmm.
O'Hara, in particular, was really hyping it up on Twitter, and he did showed a picture of an event that he attended, a first screening of it, with a bunch of One Piece fans. And at the end, they all throw their hats, their straw hats that they were given for the event. And he said it was an absolute success, and I cried, and you know, I started to get my hopes up. I really did. And I saw all the trailers, or I saw most of the trailers before then, and you know, I wasn't sure. And I
Mm-hmm.
watched those first couple episodes, man, and I cried. You know, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not because what was actually happening is like cry worthy, but it's just following along for as long as I have, being such a fan of the story itself, wanting to see it grow, wanting to see people experience the same things that I have, um, and knowing what went into this and how improbable it was very powerful to me, quite honestly. And that's not to say that I don't have issues with the live action. I'm not saying that they're huge issues, but I'm a nitpicker,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm critical. But I watched the whole season, and I was entertained all the way through. I loved it. We could talk about the specifics of it, but I think that they did an incredible job, way beyond anything that I had ever hoped for. Um, and by the time that I finished, I kind of knew like season 2 is coming, and here we are.
Yeah, it's like you said, you had that, you know, that moment during episode 1, episode 2, where you were just, you know, crying, like getting teary eyed. And I mean, I relate to that. Like, there was such an emotional release seeing just the episode unfold, and just seeing scene after scene of it just being really put together, really high quality. It looked like an actual show and not just some random kind of just cash grab. It was such an awe-inspiring, incredible, and like you said, your words there, powerful experience to see. Uh, it's a whole new level, like a whole new level for us fans watching this, and even for the casual viewers that are just watching this, who just look around Netflix and look for new shows. They've been receiving this very well. They've been having a good time. But for us, that's just, we had the impossible task. Like, when the Cowboy Bebop series was released, or like announced, I was like, oh, this is a surefire winner, because all the previous ones have failed. But this one, it's just like Guardians of the Galaxy, Space Pirates. Like, if you follow that kind of formula, like kind of vibe, then it'd be a no-brainer. It'd be great. And even then, they just weren't able to hit that expectation with people, and it didn't succeed. But for this, like, One Piece is the craziest series, like, to do a live action for the amount of characters that are in it, the scope of the story, how wacky everything is. And you know, the very first video I did on this channel was how the One Piece live action was going to fail. I was very heated, and it was just like, it's incredible that they actually did pull it off with all those thoughts and emotions and doubts. But once I was hearing more about Matt Owens and the team just going on to Reverie, going on to different, meeting different members of the community, just constantly having a comment of just trust us. We will do this justice. It's going to be great. There was so much confidence, so much love and passion that was put into this. That gave me that optimism. But just to see it all there and to watch through it all, it was a very powerful experience, and I'm very, very happy to see how well it's been received, and that there is a confirmation for season 2, and I'm super excited to go and see. Like you said, there are collaborations with the One Piece community that are going to be happening with season 2, and I hope it continues on, because after the success of season 1, we're going to be wanting to share this with everybody, chat with everybody. Like, the entire YouTube front has been saturated with One Piece live action content because of the excitement that we've had. I'm just excited to go and see what they do moving forward and how they use the reception for season 1 and the excitement to deliver season 2.
Yeah, well, I think Oda being involved as well was so critical. Like I said this in the video that I made about the live action. Oda cared. He cared a lot about this, and who can blame him? But you don't make One Piece, and you don't work at this daily for 20 years without being incredibly passionate and dedicated to your life's work. And I think him being there, I honestly, that might have been the difference. He's one of he's a great storyteller, period. And just even to have that voice in the room, offering his criticisms and just generally having a perspective about the story and about his fan base, things that could change, or he's probably a perfectionist as well. This isn't good enough for me. I'm sure that was tough on everybody making it, but at the end, this is, you do it so that the people love it, so it ended up being, worthwhile, from that standpoint. And, it's just, I had another thought, but I lost it. Welcome to my life. But yeah, anyway, no, but it's just incredible. Like, I'm still thinking about this, I just made a tweet a couple of minutes ago. When I was growing up, and I'm from the United States, not a single person that I knew of One Piece, not one. And if they did, they just didn't talk about it. And I was a nerd, I didn't just avoid all the kids that were reading manga. It was Bleach and it was Naruto. And I went to college and I met one singular person that knew of One Piece. And so to be able to share this story, on one hand, there's pros and cons, okay, because it's a little toxic at times with a bigger fan base. I get it. But yeah, it's just the coolest thing in the world to see something, that you've always loved and you felt like was a little underappreciated grow. And that's what Netflix is going to do. It's a big deal. Trending #1 in like 80 some odd countries simultaneously. That's incredible. Surpassing records of Stranger Things. I'm gonna go to stores here and One Piece merch is going to be there. It's so cool.
Yeah, I am in the process of doing a final cut of me and my fiance doing a review for the Netflix live action, and it was very fascinating because she doesn't like watching anime or manga or anything, has no intention of watching One Piece, and so it was interesting hearing her thoughts. And for one, she really liked it, so it'd be really interesting to see people's response after that. But then the second thing is, she was telling me, I got to be used to One Piece being mainstream. Because like you said, it's going to be like One Piece merch everywhere. It used to be our own little, even though it's so big and there's a big community for it, just like in everyday conversations and with friends and family, it's just nothing that's really brought up, or it's very niche. But now it's with the success of the series, it's going to become more mainstream. Which I absolutely love. And the thought of just being with a group of friends, and I did the other day, I actually went to a wedding, and there were people that came up that I haven't met before, and I think because they saw my tattoo, or my Berserk tattoo, for whatever reason, this person came up to me and said, "Hey, do you watch One Piece?" And I was like, "Wait, is there a specific reason for that?" Because I have a whole YouTube channel that is nothing but One Piece. It was like, oh my god, that's crazy. But we're just chatting about the live action, and even people who haven't seen One Piece, like, oh yeah, I've went and watched the live action. It's really cool to see people find out about it, and then for me, like for my fiance, just for her to like be able to see what I like really do like love about the series. And even if she doesn't watch the entire series, I mean, if they adapt the whole Netflix series like with all the seasons, I mean, that's amazing. That's probably the only way I can get her to watch all of One Piece. But I mean, if for her just to see season 1 and season 2, because she is keen to see it, and be able to understand why I like it so much, that's really everything. And honestly, it was a highlight for me because I was wearing my red hair pirate shirt, and I was just like in the kitchen just like grabbing something, and then she, because on the back of the shirt has all the pirates on it, the members of the crew, and she's like, I know who that is, like I know Shanks. And I was like, that was the highlight of my life. I was like, oh my god. She's like, I know that, I know who that is. I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. She like understands, like she knows a bit about what I like. So that for me is a huge win. But I'm super excited to go and see what they do. I really am.
Yeah, well, and that's also part of the what I've been enjoying about all of this as well, is seeing the reaction not of other fans like us that have been fans for a long time, but seeing reactions from people who are new. That is so exciting to me. Like your wife who's checking it out. Like I just
Yeah.
want to. It's curious to me. It's interesting to me. Like, well, like how does this appeal to you? What do you like from this? Like what is your experience, and how is it maybe different from me, from the lens of knowing what happens and the manga and the differences and things like that?
Yeah. Honestly, I think the biggest critiques that she made were just the production. So she didn't complain about like the characters or the way it was or anything like it. It was just, oh, the wigs were just a bit weird and they looked pretty bad. But that was what The Witcher did. When The Witcher season 1 came out, they didn't know how to do Geralt's wig, which they fixed in season 2. So it's like a lot of costume and bits and pieces they can fix up for season 2, and that was her main like big criticisms for it. So other than that, she said that she and in the video, which I'm so I really wanted to open it with this little speech that she did, but she essentially stopped and went, I really appreciate the goofiness of One Piece now. Like she understands it. And that was everything for her to understand why we like it and actually enjoy it. Yeah, it's really cool, and to hear more people who are casual viewers feel the same way is really awesome.
Well, that's what drew me to One Piece in the first place, quite honestly. I didn't start One Piece first in my anime uh, journey. And, it's just nobody talked about it. And so I understood the shonen genre generally, and swords are cool, and fights and that sort of thing. But it wasn't until I got to One Piece that I was like, you know what, this is exactly what I always wanted, just because of the goofiness alone, where I felt like Oda could do anything. He could literally do anything, and it was just fire because it was funny. And it created like the wackiest story that you could possibly imagine.
Yeah, it's such an incredible blend, and it's funny for us to kind of reflect on how One Piece is. But honestly, seeing the Netflix series made me really realize how interesting of a series it is. Like here you have super colorful, goofy characters, but then you have really violent scenes of like Zoro cutting someone in half and really tragic, dark scenes. It's such a fascinating thing to see unfold as a series, and I can't imagine somebody seeing it as a casual. It's like, what is this? like what is this? What is the tone of this series? But that's something that's just so appealing about the show, is that there's so many different feelings and themes, and like, yeah, it's such an incredible mix of
It's
genres and
it's the
themes.
whole experience,
Yeah,
You don't know that. I mean, the same conversation exists. I was kind of worried, I thought, well, what are people going to think about the live action, just because the costume designs or the character designs? But then I was like, wait a second, these same things are brought up when people watch the anime, and
yeah,
they first begin. You kind of got to select for the One Piece fans who are like patient enough to okay, this is what it is on the surface, and then over the course of arcs as they pass, like your opinion of it, your perspective of it grows and changes because Oda's able to hit all those notes. Where you can have a character that you know he irritates you to your very core, or you can have a moment where you're just bawling your eyes out, and every emotion in between.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, like you said, a character that really irritates you. A big thing for my fiance was like, yeah, she's like, I hate the designs of like Helmeppo and like Kobe, and like, well, it's exactly how I brought up pictures of them and like, oh, that's exactly how they were. Okay, it's like, yeah, that's you know, oh man,
Well, shout out to Helmeppo though. I really liked what they did with Helmeppo in
yeah,
the live action.
oh
Honestly, I
yeah.
started to think that he was cool, and I was like, wait a second, I don't remember this.
What were you? Now look, I'm a late bloomer when it comes to the Bogard hype. I didn't really think about anything with Bogard. And it was only until the Garp fight in the manga that people were like, "Oh my god, where's Bogard?" And there was a lot of slander for Bogard. So coming into the series, I'm like, there's a lot of love for Bogard here, and like I really did appreciate that. Was there any sort of characters during the series, like the live action, that really stood out to you and in this adaptation?
Yeah. Part of I think the live action wouldn't necessarily have worked for me if it was a one for one,
Yeah,
which is that everything occurs exactly the same,
yeah,
because I liked, you know, even if the differences aren't always better, and I'm not going to say that they aren't or are, but just it can't always be the case. Um, I like the feeling of not necessarily knowing what's going to happen and seeing scenes and having different interactions. That was all really exciting for me. So did anyone stand out? I mean, yeah, Garp was way
mm,
different.
yeah,
Um, but at the same time, I enjoyed the fact that it was different. I almost felt like the live action treated Garp more like an integral character
yeah,
than the manga has, and that's not anything against the manga. It's just we got more time with Garp, and I feel like season one is preparing us for this journey with him leading up to Marineford and retirement, where he's at this point it seems like he's still excited to be a marine and justice and he's the hero, right? But uh, and it could change by the time we get to this part of the story in the live
hmm,
action if we get there. But by the time you get to Marineford, it's like suddenly, is Garp as motivated as he was? And so I feel this occurring in the live action, and that excites me. But you could even talk about Luffy. I don't think
hmm,
that Luffy from the live action is exactly Luffy from the manga. He is more articulate. He feels like he's wiser, and he's like got a perspective that he wants everyone to understand. He knows something that they don't, right?
hmm,
And he's just waiting to prove it. Is the general vibe that I got from it. But that was exciting as well. Even if it's not quite Luffy, and this was just a weird experience that I had. I got the impression of him being like a deity, which is fitting possibly with
yeah,
where we're at with the manga right now. The example is like those the ancient myths or whatever of travelers are traveling along the road and they encounter some old homeless man on the side who needs
hmm,
something. He's injured
yeah,
or is hungry, and you feed him and you're rewarded for it because he was secretly a god.
yeah,
And with Luffy, you get those same sort of vibes of like he's testing people around him if they're good enough to join the flock and be and achieve their dreams with him. It was just a
yeah,
weird experience. I enjoyed it a lot.
yeah. It's like it's very fascinating, like you said, because of not what we know. He just has an unwavering need to like have he does not change his opinion about how he's for one he's gonna be king of the pirates, but then also just that he's a good pirate. He's gonna do the right thing. He's gonna feed people. Like he wants people to be fed, happy, free, achieve their dreams. Like there's just a constant like unwaveringness to his ideals, which like you said is very in line with like deities that like that's like their whole thing. Like they have this whole um I guess like mantra about them, and that's all Luffy is. With how we know that, like with what we know. But yeah, I think it's very fascinating, and I like this version of Luffy. I thought it was really fun. I thought it was really cool, and it was really neat to see the behind the scenes videos where he, the actor went and met Oda, and him saying that yes, like you are Luffy. Like there's nobody else that could have done this. It's just yeah, like I see how he is. I'm like yeah, this is the dude. Like this is the guy. I could see him doing other things later on, like in the series. It's just been really
That
cool.
was such an incredibly intelligent decision. First off, finding a person that's Luffy like naturally, I
Yeah.
imagine is not easy.
No.
So kudos there. And I know some people that might have different opinions. I absolutely loved Inaki,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just tough, right? Like when you think about actors and acting in general, you think of somebody playing somebody that they're not,
Yeah.
right? But I kind of think that a lot of the successful actors they get typecast in a way because that's who they are, like especially with comedy, right? Like if you
Yeah.
watch um, uh, Bruce Almighty, who is the actor that played it? He's really famous.
Was
And
it Jim Carrey?
Jim Carrey, thank you. Sorry, the
Yeah.
name escaped me. But
Yeah.
you watch a Jim Carrey movie, and Jim
Yeah.
Carrey is Jim Carrey
Yeah.
in every movie. And it's just that Jim Carrey is incredibly entertaining. And so, I thought that was great. Is they found somebody who was Luffy-like naturally, and so when he's on the screen, it plays to his strengths. And I'm not trying to discredit his acting skills in general. It's just
Mhm.
like with a project like this, I felt like that was a difference maker.
Yeah, for sure. And something that you just mentioned that's really good is that people just being able to be who they are. That's what I loved about this series is like all the different accents. Like I loved everybody just having their own different accent. It really played into the world being huge and people from different regions and areas of the world. But then also just people, yeah, just having their own spin. Like I loved Garp's accent. I loved everyone else's accent. I love Sanji's Manchester accent. It was so funny to hear and fun.
Yeah,
Like it was so good.
Cockney, is that what that
Yeah,
is?
yeah, it was so good. I loved it. Like I'm like that's Sanji. Like that.
I,
Um, it was really
I was
cool.
surprised he wasn't French. That was just a thought that I was occurred the whole time. I was like, man, I was so sure that Sanji was gonna come out with a French accent, but I don't know. I will say this though, that the one accent that bothered me as I was watching it was Garp. And it's not because I
Okay.
love he looked like Garp first off, and I love the accent, but it's because Luffy's accent is different, and for whatever reason, I'm not sure. Actually, no, this is not a fair criticism, right? But I like the family to sort of have those feeling of hey, we're from the same background or we're from the same area, and this is something that when you're watching the anime or reading the manga, you don't get at all. So that did kind of bother me a little bit, but it
Okay.
took some getting used to, and I know it's not fair
Yeah,
because
I
it
know.
it, 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 it can make sense.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just, yeah, I do understand that. Like hearing them both, it's like, well, how? Like, I don't understand. But I just loved it. I just loved how they just did their own thing and they just went with it and let them be themselves. I thought that was just really cool and a welcome change because you would expect a series that is so hard pressed on making it perfect. I mean, like you said, you don't want to make it one to one, but there is so much on the line in terms of making this faithful that you think that they would have the accents, like you said, the French accent for Sanji or something like that. The fact that they just let them be how they wanted to was really cool, and it made them really fall into those roles so much more naturally, which we could clearly see when watching this.
Yeah, I watched another movie recently, just randomly, Gangs of New York, and it
Okay.
was about the gangs of when New York was founded. There was a bunch of different districts or whatever, and you had immigrants from different places in the world, the Irish and yada yada or whatever. And man, I can tell you, I would rather have somebody using their real accent than faking a bad one. 1 million
Okay.
percent.
Okay. I'm guessing if I search a clip up of that, I'll be able to tell right away.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
Okay. All right. Do you have any expectations for season 2 in terms of like the big talking point from the video that Oda released was with Chopper, but with other characters too. Do you have any expectations or what you would like to see for season 2?
Yeah, this is tough, man. I would hate if this project was put on my desk trying to figure out with a story that with so many elements that I loved on a chapter by chapter basis, trying to figure out how to do it, but also with the knowledge that you can't do everything, and you just can't. Like, if you tried to fit everything in here, I mean, Anaki is going to be like 50 by the time that it finishes. So it doesn't work. So I'm trying to think of how they can cover ground in the story in the most appealing way possible. And honestly, my opinion is not set in stone. I'm kind of just like wait and see. Like, I hope, they're spending every day trying to get the most out of it, and I kind of trust them at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of hope that it goes all the way through Alabasta.
Okay.
That we begin in Logtown, and the first episode or first 2 episodes, you enter the Grand Line in Laboon. And then from there, it's all about Baroque Works, right? So
Yep.
I feel like we need to finish that story. And we even got clues in the first season that Baroque Works was a thing because Zoro fought Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Seven or whoever it was.
Yep.
So yeah, it should end in Alabasta. I'm curious as to what's included and what's not, and there's like a lot of things that we don't think about. Like, for instance, the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
Would guess that we're not going to see Hyrule and or Hyrule, Dorian Brogy,
Yep.
um, because it would be very difficult. I feel like, or if they do it, it could be the best freaking thing of the whole season of just seeing that, kind of like when they nailed the Sea King. So who knows? But
Yeah.
do we go to Little Garden or not? Or how do they incorporate pieces that were like great, like Mr. Prince, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
within the story, maybe in a different way than we experienced it in the manga? So, yeah.
I mean, that the thought of season 2 starting and then just seeing glimpses of like Dorian Broggy, like the Giants and stuff. That'd be so mind blowing just to get a taste of season 1 and what this is all about, going to the Grand Line and then just seeing like like Laboon, the Giants, like all this sorts of stuff. That's crazy. I can't imagine the excitement or like just like just awe-inspiring it would be to see that. That'd be really cool. And it is crazy to actually think about now that we could be getting all the way through to Alabasta. I think that would be a nice way to end it. And I think there was like a rumor. I mean, at this point, it's all rumors, but it's just like somebody essentially broke down that having 4 episodes in Alabasta may be ideal. If it's going to be, who knows, like 8 or 10 episodes, it'd be interesting to hear what they do. But yeah, just having a bit more time to flesh it out, because I do think Arlong Park, as good as it was, I feel like having a bit more time to flesh it out would be pretty neat. But obviously, that would restricted with
It was
episodes.
fast.
It
Yeah.
was it was
I had
fast.
I had the same experience. Like, they were in a hurry to cover content, which is
Yeah,
understandable. With
yeah,
with the East Blue, it's particularly important because all of these arcs are crew members that Luffy is
mm-hmm.
recruiting, and so you need to understand why they're being recruited, what their dreams are, their purpose, and grow to love them. But that's
Yeah,
a lot of characters, and that's a lot of arcs that you need to include. So yeah, I definitely felt like it was a bit fast, and it could actually suit the story more going forward that Oda has these massive arcs because I think you could just cut them easier. You know what I mean?
yeah, for
So
sure.
for pacing reasons.
Yeah, that's going to be very fascinating because like there is arcs like you mentioned that are super super long. How they're going to trim it down to get just the best beats to get it through? Because a lot of people tend to talk about how the manga arcs they tend to drag or the anime arcs. So yeah, it'll be really fascinating to see how they cut it down. Which because we know of how long they go for, it did feel fast. But yeah, going to like Alabasta and stuff like that, it'll be really fascinating to see how it feels and how they handle it. But yeah, I'm just wondering what they're gonna do with like with Chopper. Do you have any sort of ideas about what you think it could be or what you would like to see Chopper be portrayed?
Yeah. Well, I'm worried about that, if I'm honest. Just
Yeah.
because CGI can be so hit or miss. And they
Yeah.
used CGI in the first season, and I thought it was at times very good,
Mm-hmm.
and at other times not as good.
Yeah.
And so to have a crew member that just probably needs to be that way always, how does that affect the budget? Or do
Yeah.
they play with it? And if they play with it, am I going to like it?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Yes, I would almost expect for budget reasons that what we're going to see is we're going to see makeup
Yeah.
instead. So that will be, I don't know how people will react to that, but they may not have a choice.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that. I mean, like when it comes to like the Fishmen, they did make up for that, and they really just handled that. So I think that maybe, yeah, for budget reasons, they would definitely, I think, do that sort of
But
route. Because yeah,
could you imagine shifting forms though? I think Brainpoint would just straight up not happen. Like that they'll just eliminate Brainpoint, and then in fighting scenes maybe do some weird things with the makeup to like fluffball chopper or you know I don't know. I really don't know.
yeah,
We'll see.
yeah, we'll see how they do it. But that's, I mean, that is obviously the big talking point of discussion is how they're gonna do it. But I mean, this is how we were talking about season one. We're like, well, how are they gonna do Luffy's Gum Gum Fruit? How are they gonna do this? How are they gonna do that? And they've managed to pull it off. So I do have hope that they're thinking that exact same thing, and especially because the video had Oda saying they're gonna need a doctor having the focal point being Chopper for the season. Then it's like, okay, they're gonna put a lot of focus on Chopper in season two. So I'm keen to see what they do.
Yeah, if Chopper is the focus of season two, there's no way that we end at Drum Island. No way. So
No.
probably what I would expect is to take some of the beats of Drum Island and then move it into Alabasta is what I would think
Okay.
happens. So it's very different. But you get something like the cherry blossoms,
Mm-hmm.
the healing aspects of it, maybe even Dr. Huluk within Alabasta as part of what's taking place as they fight Crocodile, so that you can get that moment with Chopper closer to the end of the season if it works out that way. But I could be talking out of my ass as well, so not unusual.
Oh man. Um yeah, I'm just so keen to go and see, and I love the reception online about everybody just talking about it. It's the talking point of the entire community. And the thing is, like, this series, it's not going to come out for a good amount of time, so it's going to be just a constant stream of news and rumors and all that sort of stuff. And from what we've heard about, like you said, the
Well, we're used to it.
yeah, oh, yeah, we yeah, we're used to that. Well, as soon as this was announced for season one, which was like, what was it like? Was it 2019, 2018? It was like so long ago that it was announced.
I,
Um,
it might have been 2017. It was a
oh,
long time ago. COVID
yeah,
COVID was a problem
yeah,
for sure.
yeah, yeah. So we're used to it, but yeah, I mean, hopefully it won't be too much longer for a season two. But I'm keen to go and see what news comes out of casting, because there've been a lot of rumors for casting. In the chat, Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm hoping for that, and a big talking point that I had with JD Legend was that for season one there was a lot of hype and excitement into seeing how season one was going to unfold and seeing these characters and seeing it just happen and see if it works. Season two, there could be a way to gain interest from casual audiences by having maybe like a high profile cast. Now it is difficult because of budget, and also there's been an opinion which is very valid about people being cast that are nobodies or not high profile actors to increase immersion, and also it helps with budget. So to have somebody cast that's pretty big would hurt that, but then also it could garner some interest if all of a sudden you're like, well, what, Jamie Lee Curtis is cast in season two, like what, like let's watch this, because there's actually good like really high profile actors in this. It'd be interesting to see how they do it in terms of casting for season two.
Yeah, my opinion is kind of mixed. You know,
Mm,
Game of Thrones. I didn't know anybody of the
yeah.
actors that they chose for Game of Thrones, and that was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And all of them are big names now. I think pretty
Yeah.
much. Um, so there's a trap that I think Hollywood has fallen into of like, okay, well, the name is what we're searching for,
Mm-hmm.
and we're actually designing these movies or these shows with an A-lister in mind from the start. Like the project isn't greenlit unless you get Ryan Reynolds to sign off from the beginnings, or whoever it might be. So yeah, but I like the fact that we didn't know who these people were. Um, it also allows me to believe them to be the characters a little bit more, you know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
because I don't associate them elsewhere. But I would say I don't play this game of like Dreamcast or whatever. A lot of
Hmm.
people like doing that. Of who would you like? I don't care.
Yeah.
But the one famous actor that I always thought would work was Jamie Lee Curtis
Hmm.
as Dr. Kureha.
Yeah.
That always made
Yeah.
and knowing that she was such a big One Piece fan to begin with as well, it was icing on the cake. So
Yeah.
is this confirmed? I don't know. Is this actually confirmed, or are we still in
I
speculation
it's still
territory?
speculation, but at this point, it's like it's like it's been talked about
I
that
hope
much. It must
so.
manifest. But yeah, I mean, also the fact that the character is, I mean, it's like not a long running character. Like, I mean, you know, she's gonna be there for a bit of time, but then that's it. So it can happen. Like, it's not like we're saying we want a high profile actor for like yeah, Zorro or somebody. It's gonna be in there for the entire time. It's like just so it definitely can happen. Like, I can see them making it work. But yeah, like that's something that just, I feel like it has to happen in terms of, yeah, just it just makes so much sense, from the actress to the character to the fan reception. It seemed like a perfect mix.
Yeah, but my hope is that this just gets more popular. I hope so.
Yeah.
I imagine the longer that it runs, like that's just what One Piece does. It just appeals more over time, and so if it becomes more popular and they have more money to play with to perhaps select an actor that they want every so often for whatever role,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm for that as well.
Yeah.
Like on the opposite side of the spectrum, Henry Cavill as
Uh-huh.
Geralt
Yeah.
was incredible, and I was very sad when
Yeah.
that didn't continue.
No, that's it really, see the thing, yeah, that bothered me so much because you had that situation where it was like his dream cast. Like, he constantly said like he wanted to go and play Geralt, and he really cared, and he was a high profile actor, so a lot of people on board with him, they loved it. And then it was just to do with the showrunners and people what supposedly said that they were annoyed about how much he cared about the character, was so strange. But obviously that's where the problem lied with the actors and the showrunners, where there wasn't a alignment of the vision. And that's why I feel this has done so well for this series, where the showrunners and the fans and the actors, everything, and the creator, Oda, is so aligned that it made it work so perfectly, and we were rewarded for that passion, for that excitement, for making this work. But yeah, like you said, like Henry Cavill, that situation really devastated me. It got my fiance into playing The Witcher. She had only exclusively, like video games wise, played The Sims. But now, and after seeing The Witcher and knowing that Henry Cavill was gonna play Geralt, like she watched it, she loved it. She's played all through every
Oh
Witcher
man!
game, finished Witcher 3 multiple times on the hardest difficulty. Like she loves it.
Wow,
Yeah, she's done so well. It was such a
bro.
fun time.
I confession.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think I finished Witcher 3, but
Okay.
that's not to say that I did not
I
put like 800 hours into it.
I finished it, but I did not finish the last DLC, which my fiance has been kicking me for. She's like, you gotta finish. I think it's like Blood and Wine. Like, you gotta finish it. But I just like, yeah, I haven't gone into it. But yeah, I've only played Witcher 2 and Witcher 3, but she's played through 1, 2, 3, finished 3 multiple times.
Bro, the
She's
side
done.
quests. The side
Yeah.
quests were so good. I had to complete
Yeah.
them all. And the next thing you know, it's like, oh my gosh, life is happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, yeah, oh man, it just, yeah, that's, I'm just hoping that in the future, like, we have the same showrunners and people working on this to make it really just really work in the future for next seasons. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
we'll see. That's my mentality of, take it day by day,
yeah.
news by news, and see what it becomes.